NASA iTech is a unique initiative to find innovative solutions to problems here on Earth and apply those ideas to solving the challenges of future space exploration. The top 10 finalist innovators for NASA iTech Cycle 2 were recognized at the NASA iTech Forum for their technical viability, the likely impact on space exploration, and the potential for commercialization. The top 3 teams were Context AI, Omniburos, and the University of Houston. Context AI from Santa Clara, California showcased a wearable biosensor array that turns the body's vibrations, sounds, and bioelectric impulses into actionable intelligence to identify heart problems at very early stages. Earlier detection of health issues could lead to lower costs and better outcomes for patients on Earth and preventative care for astronauts on long-duration flights. The Omniburos team at the Children's National Health System in Washington, D.C. presented a smart robotic surgery technology called STAR. This advanced platform for surgeon-supervised intelligent autonomous robotic surgery reduces human error and complications during minimally invasive procedures. Smart autonomous surgical systems such as this could also prove valuable for future deep space missions. And the University of Houston introduced a new material that repels ice. Inspired by wood frogs, the adaptive surface works like a pair of glasses that change to sunglasses when you go outdoors. The material performs normally at ambient temperatures, but becomes an anti-icing surface when exposed to extreme cold. This could greatly enhance the safety of aircraft and space vehicles and protect power lines in severe winter weather. The top 3 entries are all moving their innovative ideas forward, bringing us closer to addressing gaps in technology for future space exploration.
Thank you for joining us at tonight's Ignite the Night Denver. On stage with me, Major General retired Air Force, also CEO of the Wings Over the Rockies, so that he can say a few things. Thank you for
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Wings Over the Rockies. I hope you can enjoy the setting tonight. As a former member of NASA over the years, assigned to the headquarters and part of the Columbia investigation, wasn't always the best time then, but it is a delight to welcome NASA back to Wings Over the Rockies. My congratulations to all of the contestants tonight. I wish you the best of luck. We are one organization, 2 locations. We have this here at Lowry. We have a new facility we just opened a month ago out at Centennial Airport. We're delighted if you come out. This will always be the heraldry of air and space. Out at Centennial is meant to be the present and the future of air and space. A lot of what's going to go on tonight, we would like to capture for our future in the museum, so I wish everyone the best of luck. And on behalf of the board of the Wings Over the Rockies Museum and all of our employees, ladies and gentlemen, welcome tonight and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, John. So I'd like to welcome you to our event here in Denver. None of us would be here, however, without the help of a dear friend of mine who I was mentioning to him that we wanted to do an outreach here in Denver, and I said, but I'm not exactly sure how I will be able to reach all of Denver. He actually told me, hey, let me put you in touch with a friend of mine, Jaylen Dell, which most of you guys probably know, and Art Maples, who is one of our NASA employees that works here locally. Anyway, basically, with their help and the Space Foundation, we were able to actually reach out to most of you, and that's why you're here today. So thank you, Mark, if you're in the audience, Jay, Art, and definitely E as well with the Space Foundation. Honestly, I hope that your takeaway from this evening is that you will have found your time here very beneficial. We're here tonight to actually evaluate technologies. We have a panel of judges that come from both NASA, other federal agencies, as well as other industries outside of space, universities. And so what I'm going to ask the judges to do, since I can't see all of their names, is introduce yourself down the line so that we can actually hear. So Jim, would you like to start?
Okay, I'll start. Welcome everyone. My name's Ryder. I'm NASA's Associate Administrator for Space Technology.
Hi, I'm John Holst. I work for the Space Foundation as a researcher there.
Rich Ancliffe from NASA headquarters, working with commercial programs.
Megan Wood, I'm with Digital Globe. I run strategy and corporate development.
Harry Partridge, I'm the chief technologist at NASA Ames.
Hi, I'm Richard Helmick. I'm a forensic chemist for the Environmental Protection Agency.
Hi, I'm Penny Axelrod. I'm a professor in aerospace engineering at the University of Colorado Boulder.
Thank you for turning that up.
My name's Tom Flake. I'm with the National Institute of Aerospace.
Hi, I'm Steve Jolly. I'm the chief engineer at Lockheed Martin Space, Commercial Civil.
Hey folks, I'm Dana Toulis. I'm the Director of Incident Management and Preparedness for the U.S. Coast Guard.
Hi, good evening. I'm Mike Azaric. I'm the Vice President of Engineering at Ball Aerospace.
Hi, I'm Rob Ambrose. I'm the Chief of the Software, Robotics, and Simulation Division at NASA's Johnson Space Center.
So I want to thank our judges for volunteering their time here to evaluate the technologies. So what we do at an Ignite the Night, it's really a mini version of what our forums are. And just to kind of give you a perspective on what a NASA iTech forum is, we have 2 a year. And basically we spend 2 days with a panel of judges from both NASA as well as industry leaders that evaluate the technologies. Out of 10 companies, we actually bring those 10 companies in and they present. So we work with them the first 2 days, then they present for the next 2 days. And essentially, the first 20 companies that have participated have raised, just let me pause for a minute. They've raised $210 million in about 15 months. That's huge. That's substantial. I mean, that number alone, in 15 months, these 20 companies, all we do is provide a stage, a platform, we evaluate the technologies. So what we're doing in your city tonight is we're actually coming to cities throughout the US to actually evaluate technologies, building a sort of ecosystem that will funnel into our 2 years, our forums that we have twice a year. So as an entrepreneur, if you're in the audience and you're not participating tonight, I hope that you go and apply, because this forum, the application deadline is the 31st of August. And it gives you a shot at ultimately, potentially making it into the top 10 and being on a stage where we invite investors, industry leaders, and our chief technologists that represent our different field centers that actually can evaluate your technology, provide some guidance. And I don't know, $210 million in 15 months, I'm saying it might work. So I'm going to introduce my boss, Jim Ryder. He's going to come up here and sort of give you a brief overview on the technologies that we're searching for this cycle, and from an agency perspective, because I've learned that it's pretty nice to be able to actually understand what our needs are. And surprisingly, across the US, we've noticed that lots of people like to help solve problems for NASA. So Jim, if you can go ahead and step up here. If you can help me give Jim a round of applause. He puts up with me on a regular basis, and every day that I go in and I swipe my badge, I'm still shocked it works, because I kind of push things to the edge a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, so, but thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you, Kira. Well, welcome tonight. What a great venue. I love being here. Just a fantastic place to meet, and we really appreciate everybody turning out. We appreciate the investors that are here, and especially we appreciate the entrepreneurs and our judges. I have the privilege of being the lead for NASA for the space technology, and so what we try to do is develop transformative, cross-cutting technologies that can enable our exploration and discovery missions. And we do so by trying to engage the brightest minds, whether they're from universities, the academia world, from the government agencies, and from industry. And that industry may be from billions of a corporation worth billions to startup companies. And what we find is when you bring everybody together, that's when you get the most diversity, and that's when you get the best product. NASA is going forward to the moon. we're doing so in a sustainable way. The Mars is always in our goal. It's always in our sight now, in our horizon. So the things we do in the moon, not only are they to enable us to understand and do real science on the moon, but also to develop technologies that will feed forward. If you think about it, now is really a time where we're about to address a lot of humanity's big questions. So Mars is there. Does Mars have microbial life? Did it ever before when there was flowing water? There was just an aquifer found on Mars. What's that implication? Can we learn more about how Earth started and where Earth might be going from looking at Mars? And then beyond that to the solar system, where the icy moons, the icy worlds of our gas giants hold all the key ingredients for life. You just have to drill down 5 miles of ice to get there. And then beyond that to other worlds and other star systems, and we're finding that many of them have planets, and many of those in habitable zones. And so for us right now, it's really, I think, probably the most exciting time, arguably, in operating in space, because with all this discovery, what we also have is a burgeoning space economy. And with that, you can see the mega trends that are out there that are all leading towards just really exploding on our use of space and greatly broadening our community that works there. So it's like the miniaturization of both satellites and instruments, the increasing access to space, the explosion of data transmission rates. All of those are leading to the point where we've really got a really unique set of circumstances that's really broadening the industry. And so NASA, we know we can't do things by ourselves. And if you try to, then you also know that you're not really being as broad and as diverse. So what we try to do with events like this is reach out to a part of the community that we wouldn't normally reach. And with that, what we're finding is there's lots of technologies out there that help not only here on Earth, but things that directly apply to us. So we're excited to see those tonight. And some of the key technology. And so what we do is we try to go around the country. We're targeting going to 15 different places for events like this, and use that and focus on different technology areas. For this one and for Houston as we're going next, the areas that we kind of picked were big data and data mining. We have petabytes of data right now that we have to process, and yet we also have to be able to make decisions with less than perfect data. There's artificial intelligence and autonomous robotics, and what you find is the ISS is a magnificent vehicle, but it has a lifeline. As we go beyond low Earth orbit, and as data transmission times or time delays get more and more important to us, then we need to be more and more autonomous in our fault management and in our operations. Revolutionary communications, that's really changing the way we do business right now. Quantum and going towards even quantum comm and using photonics really can change things. And then finally, medical breakthroughs. For us, a lot of the technologies that are breakthrough today have potential applications for us. We try to figure out how to, we need to figure out how to have in situ development for medications, for food, extend the life of the food products that we have in order to really explore the system. So we look forward to the discussions tonight, and of course we're always looking for other technologies too, so there's always a category for that. Then one final thing before I welcome and we can get started is a shameless plug for another event we have here in the Denver area coming up November 6th and 7th. It's SBIR. We run the Small Business Innovative Research Program Innovation and Opportunity Conference, which is November 6th and 7th here in Aurora. Air Force Research Lab and DARPA will be joining us along with Colorado businesses, and the NASA AA, Steve Jerzik, will be there. So with that, I look forward to tonight. Let's have fun. Thank you.
You did great. Thank you, Jim. So I'm about to start introducing the entrepreneurs as they come up one by one, but let me let you guys kind of hear how it's going to work. So they have 3 minutes to give a pitch. Our judges here have a score sheet that they're going to actually judge each presentation on. At the end of all the companies actually presenting, the judges are going to go off to a separate room. They're going to tally the scores, and we'll select one winner from this evening. But Robin, what happens if my 3 minutes is up? I think it needs to be louder because I can still talk over that. So we'll start playing some shark music if they go over their 3 minutes. Each entrepreneur has 3 minutes. There will be a timer set here so that they'll know when they're about to go. Yeah, sorry guys. I don't know, I've learned that sometimes entrepreneurs aren't so great at an elevator pitch. So I had to sort of build a contingency plan. You guys are probably familiar with that, contingency plans. Anyway, so I'm going to actually start off by introducing our first company, Aptage. And Robin, if you can set the timer for them, they've got 3 minutes. If you want to come up.
Hi, I'm John Hines. I'm the CEO of Aptage. The human mind is not good at dealing with complex uncertainty. Simple risks, simple probabilities, simple uncertainties, yes, but not complex. Innovation is always about complex uncertainty. The examples around us have lots of complexity, and the uncertainty is difficult to deal with. We have built a technology that is a Bayesian AI small data learning engine that can be applied to measure uncertainty in project management risk. It reads things like Microsoft Project or Atlassian Jira and can analyze the uncertainty based on the team's original inputs and on their progress, revising that uncertainty continuously. We can see here on the left, the red represents a 43% risk of missing the deadline, of shooting long on the program. That is data that comes from the team's project plans and systems. On the right, we can trace it not just once, but continuously over the lifetime of the program. At the beginning of a program, risk is at its highest and it must go down, or we have a problem. Being able to detect these problems sooner than later gives us an opportunity to manage scope, schedule, resources before it's too late to do anything about it. For example, we're working with a major biomedical company to help them design and develop a new implantable medical device. This device, it's an embedded system, it's an implantable system. It is complex with hardware and software. The way that we're helping them is by understanding where they are in their program and being able to answer the question, are we on track with data based on their own project plan and track record? Let me tell you a little bit about my co-founder, Murray Cantor. Murray has got a PhD in mathematics. He built our core engine. He based that on his experience running large-scale programs for the Air Force, for IBM, and for many others. He retired from IBM as a distinguished engineer. He and I met, and we've started Aptage together to take our collective experience and put it into this tool. My background is software development, and I've been running my own consulting company for a decade. Why NASA? NASA has always built big, complex innovations. The ability to see the risk and uncertainty in those programs gives NASA an ability to better understand where they are and apply resources to help programs come in on time more successfully and with less stress. Thank you very much.
So the judges have 4 minutes to ask questions. So if you could just take the mic, if you have a question, take it, pass it, ask the question, pass it down. You don't have to ask questions if you understand everything about his technology that is enough for you to be able to actually give your score.
Got it, too. Thank you for the presentation. So can you give us some more examples of how this would be applying in real world and what the advantages would be of using this software?
Yes, more examples. We're working with a manufacturing company that is expanding their manufacturing capabilities to produce a new way of high-speed cutting of graphene. This is a slightly innovative project. They're working with several vendors. We helped them manage their project and detect when one of their vendors was at risk of not being able to deliver. They were able to use that information to swap out to another vendor and lower their risk and come in with that on time.
So can you give an example of what your system inputs are and what the system outputs are to, equate, I put in some variable A and I get a risk percentage out? Like, is that what the system does?
I heard example inputs and outputs. It is, the speakers are difficult to hear up here. Did I get the question right? Yes. Example inputs, the smallest example we have literally is a back of the napkin project plan. Murray will say uncertainty in, uncertainty out. We also scale up to complex Microsoft project construction and systems engineering. We can integrate with other systems, Primavera or other project management systems, or agile software development backlogs are another kind of input into our system. The uncertainties are things like agile development velocity or ranges around estimates, being able to say this is our estimate of a future work item. We think it's risky though, which gives us a higher probability distribution around it.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Could you give me an idea of how you validated that the tool works for its intended purpose?
We validate the tool several ways. Retrospective studies. One organization gave us 3 of their projects. We analyzed their projects and said this one was easy, this one had some stress and then came in fine. This one looks like it was high drama, and they said, yes, you're right. Another way that we validate this is we learn from the team's execution in progress, as they progress, and use that as a feedback loop to help the team see what they're doing, and the wisdom of teams can help us validate, oh yeah, that actually is at higher risk. We need to do something about it. So there are several mechanisms, although we are doing probabilistic forecasts, so it's difficult to come up with concrete, yes, this was 57%.
How will you defend against somebody like Microsoft adding this as a feature within their own program?
We believe that not only do we have core IP that is difficult to replicate, we have core business and program management experience coupled with that technology. Between Murray and I, we've crafted agile and large-scale systems engineering practices into a Bayesian AI engine that is not common experience. The other piece of information that I would relate is we did have a classically trained data scientist working with us, and he kept getting surprised why he couldn't use the standard algorithms to replicate what we were doing. We ended up having to part ways because he didn't get what we were doing. We're doing something differently.
Okay. Well, if you just want to go ahead and come on.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, thanks. Good evening, everyone. I want you to take a moment and think about robots. You probably picture something like C-3PO, made out of metal and honestly a bit clunky. Okay. But instead, I want to paint a much different vision. A vision where robots are adaptable and versatile. A device that could maybe help my grandmother as she ages, or provide lifelike motion in the form of a prosthetic hand for someone who's lost a limb. Okay. While Hollywood's been dreaming of this vision for decades, it's yet to be realized. Until now. I'm Tim Morsey, the CEO and co-founder of Artemis Robotics. We provide lifelike motion for the next generation of robotics and automation. Traditional robots use gears, motors, and linear actuators for motion. This is expensive because it's complicated and heavy. Nature, however, uses a very different device, the natural muscle. Natural muscles are extremely versatile, adaptable, fast, strong, efficient. We've taken an old science and applied it in a radically new way to make Hazel artificial muscles. Hazel artificial muscles have many of those key properties of real muscles. They're fast, adaptable, electrically activated, right? Hazels can be scaled up to do real-world tasks, such as lift your groceries, and with just a bit of engineering, can make simple subsystems like a soft robotic gripper delicate enough to handle a raspberry. My team of 5 other founders have the skill set to take this to commercialization. We're the inventors of the technology with 2 provisional patents already and a 3rd one in the works. Additionally, we have a University of Colorado professor who's a Packard Fellow and the world expert in artificial muscles. We've already generated interest from a variety of industries, including a research collaboration with the world's largest automotive manufacturer. Additionally, we've generated a lot of interest from VCs, and I'm excited to announce that just on Saturday, we received notification that we'll have a gift fund to help de-risk this technology. NASA's also taken notice, with our research group already in works with a phase 2 NIAC grant looking to use our artificial muscle for asteroid mining. When you have a linear actuator, no industry is off limits. Space applications have countless linear actuators. Look around this room, there are thousands or tens of thousands of actuators. When they're lightweight, it's easier to get them in space and cost less. Additionally, because they run with electricity and are low energy consumption and efficient, they'll be well suited for deep space missions where electricity is a critical component. Applications on Earth are countless as well, such as automotives, planes, robotics, and industry. If you have questions or comments about our applications, please stop by our table after this, where we have some demos to show you. Thank you very much.
Hi. If you look at the muscles that are in most animals, they're in opposition to each other, in antagonism, or in networks of antagonistic actuation. Have you put any of these in opposition to each other where you get fine force control?
So the question is about antagonist pairs, just like we have.
Or more than pairs.
And if we've...
Or more than pairs.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So you can see actually the center one is an elastic system, while the far right one is an inelastic system. So that's the fundamental components of an antagonist pair. So we could combine those two for that force control that you're talking about, but we haven't done it to date. We have done position sensoring with them because it's a capacitive sensor, because it's a capacitive system. With a simple AC measurement, you can get position, and we have done closed loop control with that to date.
And what is the working fluid?
The fluid? The fluid's a simple dielectric. The first fluid we ever used, actually, we just went to the grocery store and got vegetable oil. Now we're using a Cargill product.
What is the temperature range, the operating range for the material?
Absolutely. So the question's about the temperature range. We have not done any environmental testing to date. However, we have 3 critical components, which is a thin plastic film, a dielectric liquid, and an electrode, all of which should be operational in traditional temperatures. For the space application, we know that cold temperatures is something to consider, and we have ideas of how to work around that.
Are there issues with the life cycle, like how many cycles you can put on each one?
I'm sorry.
Are there life cycle, or do you know what the life cycle is? How many cycles can you impose on each one?
For sure. So we don't have a manufacturing method to make hundreds of devices yet. With the devices we have made in the lab, we have done some initial life cycle testing, including devices that have gone to 1 million cycles. So we don't have extensive data on that yet, but the initial data is promising. Great question.
Do they fail in the same way that human muscles fail?
So human muscles fail in a lot of different ways. So the one that we took to 1 million cycles actually didn't fail. We just ran out of time and we stopped it. They'll rupture usually for the ones that don't make it that far.
What's a typical rise time for the control for the full stroke of one of your cells?
Okay, excellent question. Essentially, how fast do they react? And so we've shown them to demonstrate up to about 50 hertz with keeping full stroke. And actually, we have one here, and there's a little button you can press and test it out yourself. But so in terms of anything that we can produce, it can beat that. And we can go into audible range with a bit of degradation of stroke.
And could you just explain more what the main advantage of this would be over the existing systems?
Absolutely. The fact that it's made out of inextensible plastic material gives it an inherent compliance, which can be very valuable. It's also more lightweight, so it has an extremely high power to weight ratio, which will of course be beneficial when we're trying to get things from Earth up into space. And also it's quite cost effective because of the materials we use.
Can you give an estimate of how much force you can apply?
Sorry, say it.
How much force can be applied?
So the force will, of course, depend on the size of the device. The advantage is that we have essentially hydraulic fluid in there, and so we can scale it to optimize for force or for stroke. And so if you want to stop by the table, we have a whole chart of what we could expect.
I think that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So our next company is DataPro Tools.
You folks at NASA ever need to take any linear measurements? You ever need to measure anything? Of course you do. Around the world, we take billions of measurements with a tape measure every day. And how do we do it? We extend the tape measure. We align it with what we're measuring. We read and interpret a fractional scale. We put the tape measure down. We pick up our clipboard, pencil, write down. Maybe we pick up a tablet or keyboard for data entry device. Then we put that back down and pick our tape measure up again and go back to work. In each of these steps, it takes time, there's an opportunity for error, and we are not fully leveraging the data that we have available. My company, DataPro Tools, makes integrated hardware and software systems for measurement for real-time integration into IT, quality control, even consumer mobile applications. Levi Strauss & Company tested our product in their quality inspection process and found that it reduced the time to process a garment from over 5 minutes to less than 90 seconds. Since my co-founder patented this technology years ago, he has sold literally over 3 million units through licensing to the LS Starrett Company and through his own firm that he founded. But now, with the advent of the Internet of Things, the digital tape measure, the standalone digital tape measure, becomes revolutionary in its connection to software, ERP software, mobile apps, an immense scope of applications. Imagine, if you will, an astronaut on a spacewalk that needs to measure a truss member, or someone doing a last-minute pre-launch inspection of an umbilical tower, a technician. They don't want to carry around clipboards and devices. They don't want to verbally report what the measurement is and have someone else transcribe it. They want that data to go immediately into an IT system where if something is out of spec, it can give immediate feedback and save a lot of problems, save waste, save accidents. I can only scratch the surface of the commercial applications from this, from quality control in manufacturing, civil engineering, CAD. How big is the construction market for tape measures? How big is packing and shipping, warehouse? Our flagship product, the DataPro One, was created for the garment industry as they enter into a blockchain traceability model for their garment tracking. And our next product will be a 25-foot steel blade tape measure. Questions?
Can your system integrate with a photo? So at the same time you take a picture of something, you could associate the measurement with that picture?
That is an excellent idea. We don't have that application yet, but we have it designed, and we think it's a huge potential consumer market for that. Right now, we have a spreadsheet available on Google Play, the DataPro spreadsheet, where every entry will just go into the next cell in the spreadsheet.
Can you measure distances between items? So for instance, say I wanted to measure the distance between me and you, would that work?
You can not only measure distances between items, but you can take inside measurements. Just by pressing a button, it will measure to the outside of the tape measure instead of the inside, so it's automatically adding that width. So it can do anything a regular tape measure can, and it works like a regular tape measure. You just press a button, and it sends it into an IT system.
What's the distance that you can measure to?
Our current product for the garment industry is a 64-inch flexible blade tape. We have We've previously produced a 25-foot steel blade tape that's not connected. So our next product as Data Pro Tools is a 25-foot connected tape measure. And after that, we will expand into real tapes that can measure up to several hundred feet.
So what about small distances? So say a caliper or a micrometer? Is that something that's capable?
Our accuracy right now is to 1/16 of an inch and improving. So it's not something that you would use in place of a caliper.
So what is the sensor that you're actually using to measure position?
The patented technology is a dual encoding technology that reads both a barcode for the rough distance along the tape, and then it uses a radial encoder to determine the more fine distance. It's robust in that if it misses one of those, it's interpreting data where it can still extrapolate what the actual measurement is.
What's your price point?
We can manufacture these for $15. We can sell them for probably $40 or $50. Right now, our initial sale, we have a $40,000 hard order from a garment company where we sold them for $100 each.
Right. Could you explain a little one more time about, you said there's an existing product today, and then the feature you've taken over is more on the software side or the application side?
We're expanding the technology and the hardware itself. My co-founder's previous company was content to just have a digital tape measure that's non-connected. We have a license agreement so that we can connect to and capture the Bluetooth market.
How are you scaling your distribution and manufacturing?
The reason we chose the garment industry is twofold. Number one, there are a few major supply chain companies that we could sell to. That means we don't have to do mass marketing. And secondly, because they had ERP modules that they're already building to accept an input from this. Scaling up, we'll look to continue to partner with industry in warehouse, in RFID, in places where both the hardware and software can find some synergy. And then we'll also sell on a retail level. All right, I want to thank you all for your time tonight.
Okay, hey, it does work. So, lot spot. Give him a round of applause. It's tough to get on this stage and have to face these judges. I'm just saying.
Parking. Parking sucks. And I can imagine you guys all agree with that. Now, before I get too deep into that and what LotSpot does, I want to tell you a little bit about our company and how we came to be. So I used to live in Indiana, and I ended up transferring to Colorado Springs, to UCCS. Great school, beautiful students, one problem. Parking sucks. Plain and simple, right? So I'm on my way to class one day. I'm driving through the aisle just trying to find a parking space, minding my own business, driving the speed limit. And next thing I know, I'm in a car accident just trying to find space. Now, the rational thing to do would be upset about the car accident. But it's me, so rather than that, I was upset about the fact that I couldn't find parking, and that's why I got in the car accident. So I went to the parking manager and I said, where do I find space? And simple enough, he shows me right where it is. And I realized, so the problem isn't with the number of spaces, it's the information surrounding those spaces. So a couple of other people and my peers, we got together and we said, okay, how can we solve this problem? We tried a variety of different things and we ended up landing on computer vision. And with the help of our mentors, we created something pretty amazing. And we really didn't even know that we did that. So we ended up developing a computer vision-based tracking system that is 10 times more computationally efficient than standards. And it's used to detect, count. It can get anybody from peoples, cars, to aircrafts. In fact, last month we flew out to St. Louis and had a conversation with Boeing Horizon X. And they talked about tracking airplanes on the tarmac. Pretty cool. But currently, right now, it's used for parking and transportation data. And the data is very valuable. One, for me and you guys, so you can find parking, but parking managers so they can also keep their parking efficient. It's a $35 billion industry. The current problems we have right now is the systems are too expensive, they're not accurate enough. They range roughly to 80 to 85% accuracy, and we're at 95%. Currently, right now, we're working with a commercial land developer in Colorado Springs, Jefferson County Municipality, and I'm actually really excited to announce to you guys today that literally not more than 8 hours ago, our system went live at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. So that was pretty exciting for us. Now, very quickly, let's talk about how it works. Essentially, what happens is we place a camera at the exit and entrance of the parking lot, and we track cars as they come in and out. The algorithm is able to convert the video into actual directional counts. So once the object has been identified, it's being tracked, and then we determine the direction, and then we count it. And the advantage of this technology is it's extremely efficient, which allows us to run this computer vision algorithm on just 6 watts. Now, we don't claim to know all the problems that NASA are encountering, but we know that computer vision is used very often in aerospace. So if you need something that needs to be counted and detected, come stop by our table and we'd be happy to talk to you about it.
It wasn't quite clear to me how you determine that a certain space is open, or is it just that there is space?
So currently, right now, the way we do it, it's aggregate counts. So we track the entrance and the exit of the parking lots. But what we can do is we can make it more granular by segmenting out the parking lot. We can do it by row. We can do it by total area. For example, right now, we're covering 3,287 spaces in Colorado Springs with just 7 cameras. And it's aggregate based.
And you're actually discriminating individual cars and what they look like, or is it just a raw count?
So right now we're just doing raw counts, but we are working on the next steps of the algorithm that we'll be able to identify between different types of cars, car levels, and even as far as the actual make and model and what trim level it is.
Can you explain applications outside of parking lots?
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of stumbled upon parking, and it just made sense for us with the algorithm. But the algorithm right now can be used to track a consortium of things, many different things. So like I mentioned with Boeing, we can actually track aircrafts. They mentioned doing it actually in the air as well as on the tarmac. We can track people. So a lot of our customers right now are asking us to also add the service for tracking people and counting them. One thing that we are pretty proud of is the core algorithm now that we own the IP for was built on an algorithm used for military application to track snipers in combat. So it can get very, very specific. So really, as long as we tune the parameters, we can track a lot of things, many different things.
So how does this solve your problem? So you had a problem trying to find parking. If I were a student at UCCS, what would my experience be right now trying to find parking?
So right now at UCCS, we just turned the system on, and the application will go live in a month or so because we have to collect the data for the dashboard. But essentially, we want it to be a preparatory device. So you get on your phone, and it'll say select the area, and it'll tell you exactly which lot has the most space, and it's the closest to your area. And then there's the dashboard side of it where we can run some pretty awesome analytics on the counts that we're receiving, and it's in real time. And that's one of the advantages of our system. We actually developed a way in the algorithm, rather than using the computer vision to analyze the entire frame, we only use the pixels that are necessary. So it's in real time and it's very efficient.
So how is your system different or better than, say, a ticketing system like at a remote parking lot for the airport, for example?
Absolutely. So at DIA, they use an induction loop, and induction loops are not that expensive for the technology, but it's extremely expensive to install. It's about 80% accurate, and there's one big thing that they have a problem with, it's traffic flow. If you have a lot of people going to a place at one time, like for example at a university, it would be stacked up all the way out down the road for a couple miles, just people trying to get in from a ticketing system. So we allows non-inhibited traffic flow, but at very, very high accuracy, and then we are also a third of the cost of all of those systems because the cameras are so inexpensive due to the algorithm.
So have you thought about space applications for the technology?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Have you thought about space applications for the technology?
So we've talked to a couple of experts in the industry down in Colorado Springs about the various applications, but the biggest takeaway that we found from our conversations is that because this is such low power, that it can be used for a variety of different things when space or when electricity is of high value. So anywhere from tracking space debris or helping with guidance, or even on a rover trying to count rocks.
So is there a size of what you can detect or not detect?
A size? When you say size, what do you mean?
So how many pixels do you need before it's meaningful?
We can run anywhere from 360 to 420 by 4K. So we can scale and shrink the pixels, or aspect ratio rather.
The next company, Lupin Laboratories.
Hi, good evening. I'm Alex Mcpherson. I work at Lupin Laboratories. We're a three-person, mostly medical device consultancy, and I spend a lot of my time thinking about non-stick, slippery surfaces. And normal hydrophobic or superhydrophobic or omniphobic surfaces are kind of an academic curiosity, and there's a few reasons for that. Just to explain what they are, they're a lot of times the marriage of low surface energy materials with topography, microstructure on the surface, and when that happens, the thing that's on the surface, water, blood, egg, what have you, mostly touches air, and therefore it doesn't stick to the surface very much and can slide off easily. And so you might have seen that there's some wonderful videos on YouTube and whatnot of bouncing water balls, bouncing like basketballs off the surface, and it's just wonderful science. It's published many papers, people love it, but there's problems. The problems are that it's expensive and that it's not robust, that over time dust, water can impale into this microstructure, and it just doesn't work anymore. And that's the reason that even though we have these beautiful super omniphobic surfaces, they've really not been commercialized. And so I'd like to talk about what is a recent development in the field, which is oil-infused surfaces, which is basically putting oil where that air usually is, and that creates a surface that's much more robust, and that will allow the surface to be slippery just like it is if air is there, but also allow high temperature use if you use a high temperature oil, and will just be able to be around for a lot longer and be able to be perturbed, to be scratched, and the oil can flow into where it used to be. And as we can see here, I've cooked eggs on the bottom to 250 Celsius. The one on the left is the one that has been treated, and might be hard to see, but the egg would fall right off that if you lifted it up. And so this has been done mostly as a medical device coating, but we're looking to take it to a much broader market, obviously including aerospace and space, and we think it has applications to de-icing. We think it has applications to drag through viscous fluids or water, and applications to preventing the biofilms from forming on the surface, and therefore staying in a relatively sterile state despite being in a solution that is sticky or otherwise hard to deal with or has been taken to high temperatures. And if you'd like to hear more about that, please stop by our table. Thank you.
And what is the vapor pressure of the lubricants, and what happens if the surface is exposed to a vacuum?
Both wonderful questions. And the vapor pressure is varied by the viscosity of the oil. We use silicone oils where you can easily vary the vapor pressure from something that shows wonderful properties at room temperature but would evaporate quite quickly at high temperature to something that can sit around at 300 or 400 Celsius and really never evaporate. So it's actually, in that instance, it's kind of tailoring the oil to the application. And the second part of the question was, vacuum. Vacuum really hasn't been tested much, and it would be the same issue where you'd have to use a very viscous silicone oil to make sure that that stays around and you don't just evaporate it off over time.
Are you doing anything to match the surface chemistry to the support and the oil that you're doing? And so, first part of the question. Second part, in terms of gravity, typically you need something to hold the oil on the surface. So it could be like a capillary action. Is there any special structure to the surface holding the oil on? Or does it simply blow off if, say, I send the surface along at Mach 3?
Yeah, if I think I heard that correctly, there's kind of two things holding the oil on the surface. There has to be a microstructure there, kind of pores to hold it in, and then also we use linker molecules to kind of create an inorganic to organic interface that then has been shown to, at high temperature, hold the oil there for a very long time. I'm not sure if I completely heard the question, so let me know.
That was the first part. The second part was what holds the surfaces together at, say, something that might have bladed off. So moving along, cooking at Mach 3, what stops air and friction from just ablating the surface away?
Okay, well, yeah. And with Mach 3 or different kind of experiments like that, I really can't tell you, except I can tell you that what the testing that we have done is scratching the surface. And this has been shown where the oil will kind of backfill where it used to be, so it would be self-healing in a way that PTFE or other non-stick surfaces could somewhat never be. And I would think a similar thing may be operative in that type of situation, although it hasn't been tested.
So have you tested this as an antimicrobial surface, and what sticks to it and what doesn't?
Yeah, we've started to test it mostly with sticky substances, so not necessarily putting overt microbes on to see what sticks. That's certainly work we're going towards now. And what sticks to it is really nothing that doesn't dissolve in silicone oil. So very non-polar things, toluene, hexane, would stick to it in the sense of they would dissolve in, but not, that's a very small range of things that aren't normally seen in the world that we live in. So, but aqueous substances and other things work wonderfully, which is what it's kind of been meant for.
Have you done any kind of leaching experiments to see, you talked about biofouling on surfaces, so if I put this on the hull of a ship, have you done any testing to show what leaches out of the material into the environment?
Yeah, we've started to do that mostly in the guise of high temperature testing, where it seemed to be quite robust, although that work is currently ongoing. All right, I guess with that, thank you very much.
So our next company is PageDip. Want to come up on stage? Can you guys give them a round of applause? Thank you.
Technical documentation does not have to be stagnant. In fact, we can take the power of prose and marry that with multimedia elements, like this document that Susie's going to share with you. Word processing changed the way we created and distributed information. It was revolutionary. Moving from a typewriter to a computer was not unlike what we're doing now between landlines and smartphones. But interestingly, many companies are still using this basic word processing software as the cornerstone for their communication strategy. And the cost of that is in lack of efficiency, money, additional money, and lower accuracy. In fact, the source code from Microsoft's Word is housed in the Computer History Museum in San Francisco. So it's beyond time to augment the tools that were created before the internet with those that were designed for today's readers and authors. Enter PageDip, a solution for this, a company that's based in Boulder, Colorado. I'm Cherise Hawkins, CEO and founder of PageDip. I'm here and pleased to present the solution to you. We're able to integrate all sorts of media into the prose, being able to measure the reader's ability to access that information, and do this all in a way that's much more engaging and a benefit to both the reader and the author. Our team is based in Boulder, Colorado, as I mentioned. My background from being an engineering graduate to working as a Walt Disney Imagineer and then being VP of software development at a major media company means that I have a lot of experience in content creation with millions of subscribers and products. So I brought that knowledge to help form the team and the product a few years ago. We are now revenue generating from our subscription model. We've raised over $1 million. We have clients in med tech, enterprise, as well as higher education, and 2 of those clients are in the Fortune 100. The reason we're here tonight is because NASA is leading our understanding of the universe, and the exploration of new materials and communication about those is imperative. So working with a platform that daily works to integrate the latest and greatest data solutions and media is an application that we think will be very interesting to you. We have known for over 2,000 years that the world is not flat, and there is absolutely no reason that your documentation should be either. I welcome your questions.
Thank you. Have you looked at the way NASA stores data and the way we build documents and thought about how your product could fit into that workflow?
We would like the opportunity to do that. We have not. We've been working primarily with medical companies in the past, and then found out about this opportunity and would like to explore that further.
Can you explain how this is different from a web page or something like that? Like, what's different about it?
Sure. We've taken the best of word processing technology along with the web to create a tool that is really designed to look at the narrative flow and how people read that narrative flow, and add these drag and drop elements for multimedia, but the ability to track that, distribute it in a secure way, and provide those analytics, all without the reader having to leave the page and the author being able to do that in a very, very fast and seamless fashion.
So does that mean that the content changes as people read it? So can you go back and to the original document, or does it evolve all the time?
The content can evolve as the author would like it to evolve, but the material that the reader sees is the current version, the most current version. So think of a living document that is one destination for the single source of truth that can then be updated very easily.
Have you been able to determine what the effectiveness is of learning through this method versus learning through just traditional reading? So actual data to support the effectiveness of the learning.
We've done several focus group testing, and we've also tested how patients prefer this type of learning for a particular condition. And we're looking at a grant and a work with a local hospital on being able to actually measure that efficacy with a much larger sample size.
How does the product change when documents are being co-authored, which so often happens in larger organizations, rather than there being one author?
We have the concept of organizations, and within those organizations, there's administrators, editors, and viewers. And so there is the possibility to co-edit, sort of like a Google Docs environment. But to be honest with you, most of our clients utilize this in more of a workflow fashion, and so different elements are added over time. And then we can look and see how those elements are being reacted to from the reader's perspective.
So is your product a new document format, like a .dox, or is it a new sort of virtual library within which the document has to exist, like a Xerox DocuShare?
I would say it is a new document category, and it's really based on web technology. We also have the opportunity to create showcases where people can go in and see an entire suite of material that's associated to them and can be changed based on, say, whether you're a doctor or a nurse or a patient. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. There's one over here.
Yeah, can you explain how interaction is different between, say, an author, an editor, and a reader through your documents?
From the reader's perspective, you simply touch on a word or phrase and you can telescope in to see additional information. So it's a very powerful way to keep the narrative flow as well as the concise look and feel of a document. And from the author's perspective, it's a very simple drag and drop interface to add these elements into the core text or into what we call the binks, which are those telescoping elements for additional media.
Does this require special software to see it, or how would this actually work?
It's available on any modern browser. Anything else? I hope you'll join us at our table after this event.
So seriously, take a minute at the end after everyone's presented and go around the room. The tables that actually have prototypes, they have table tents and it lists the companies. And we did it sort of on the outskirts to make it easy for you to find where the companies are. So the next company, is Pharmajet.
Hi, good evening. My name is Heather Potters. I'm the co-founder of Pharmajet, and I'm here to tell you about our needle-free jet injection technology. Fast, simple, easy method of administration. We form a very fast fluid injection with two different device platforms, 0.1 ml for the intradermal space and 0.5 for subcutaneous and intramuscular delivery. A fast action, push and click with a single disposable syringe, over and done with in less than 1/10 of a second, faster than your nervous system can actually respond. Along the way, we focused on the immunization market, which is an annual 3 billion shot market, partially because of needle stick reuse and pass-along disease. In some cases, needles are reused up to 40% of the time, pulled out of garbage dumps, washed and repackaged, and you would not know that they've been used. But along the way, we also focused on vaccines for a reason. It turns out that we can actually make them work better. So we don't know exactly why that's the case, but perhaps it's fast delivery. We enjoy global clinical claims from the World Health Organization demonstrating that 60% less vaccine delivered into the intradermal space is superior in immune response versus a full dose into the muscle. It turns out also that particularly for novel vaccines and cancer therapies being developed around our device, that we make many of them work several-fold better. In fact, we have 40 distinct collaboration partners across 55 different cancer vaccines and therapeutic vaccines for disease threats that have no cure today. In many cases, we see that they work 3 to 10x better in immune response, and sometimes they don't work with needles at all. So that's our intentional focus on vaccines. In terms of space, and why I'm here tonight, can you imagine where someday our technology can be used in space to deliver any liquid injection, whether or not it's self-administration or it's a mass immunization program for humans and for animals? It's a superior delivery device with no needle risks and no waste. In fact, we capture extra doses out of the vaccine vials, plowing back a positive ROI for every single injection. We have deep relationships with NASA, or with the DoD, NIH, NIAID, BARDA, DARPA, USAMRIID, and the list goes on. The FDA is actually an official reference for us, and we enjoy global clinical claims of vaccine non-inferiority and superiority. And in some cases, they're fast-tracking things, like the Zika vaccine data that you see on this screen. We can be a solution as an alternative to delivery, and I would be grateful if you would address some questions so I can tell you how interesting our device is. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
What's your origin story? How did you get here? What's your origin story? How did you get here? How did you find this technology?
So I come from a family full of healthcare people, and I'm actually a former private equity person. It used to be a trade secret that my mother and I banded together. I call it my grand plan of global domination. I've raised $55 million to date for Pharmajet to advance our development. And we have high net worth and family office investors and a number of grants from various partners that have supported us. And I think that when I looked back at the difference that we could make in immunization in a market that's growing in perpetuity and never going to stop, that was the inspiration. But I also now see that there's a whole 10 to 20-year trajectory around our technology where we can bring medical countermeasures for bioterrorism and diseases without cures today together with our device to be able to treat populations.
How does the device work in remote environments? Does dust and so forth affect it, or?
So our device is flush against the skin. I believe that in a zero gravity environment, we could deliver any vaccine or liquid medicine pulled from a vial. We also have a pre-filled syringe solution. So the vaccine is single use, and our injectors have very customized spring force delivery, customized so that it reaches a target tissue, but yet we make sure that it's a comfortable injection. In fact, we've tested these with slam tests, 100 G-force, bake it, shake it, vibrate it, freeze it, roll it around in China dirt, and cycle test it 50% more than what you'll warrant it for, to verify that the first injection is the same as the 30,000th injection. And frankly, we stopped because the cycle testing equipment kept breaking. So it's simple, push against the body, click, and the speed of that velocity floods the target tissue.
Can you tell us a little bit of the history of your company? Has this been around a while, or do you have patents on it?
We have 4 patent families, 67 different claims issued and pending, a number of trade secrets, and actually the regulatory clearances that we enjoy globally are ours alone, meaning no one can borrow from our data. In 2009, we actually debuted with H1N1, used by Homeland Security for mass immunization programs. This is our big year of global rollout. We're part of the polio eradication initiative, where we're able to stretch the dose. We've mapped 50 countries, visited 40, and we just signed up a global distributor that's in 125 countries. We've enjoyed use for clinical use and commercial use in some 24 different countries. So we've been at this for a while. Regulatory is something that's unpredictable, but we have revenue and more coming. So I think I've exhausted questions. Thank you so much for listening. And I have my devices in the back in the case you'd like to actually see it in action.
Reference technology. And you know, these guys have been standing here a while. So a big round of applause, especially for the V's.
Thank you very much. Well, it's Major League Baseball's opening day, 2019. A drone just took off 300 miles to the north of Denver, and it's en route, soon to land at Coors Field, precisely at second base, where it will drop a parasitic robot that will drive itself to pitcher's mound and fire a 90-mile-an-hour fastball to the catcher, first strike of the season. That is the aircraft that can do it today, not next year. It's called the Hummingbird, XRP, Extended Range and Payload. It took 7 years to figure out how to do this because physics is physics. 1 + 1 = 2. Energy, efficiency, and small package was necessary, and it took us 3 years to develop the hybrid. This system will fly 6 hours with a 30-pound payload, or if you prefer, a 10-pound payload for 9 hours. Or if you've got big payload necessities, 75-pound payload for an hour. That's your flexibility with the Hummingbird. But let me talk about the distinguishing aspects. Besides its duration and its payload, this system that we developed in hybrid generates 11 kilowatts at 48 volts. And that's in a 30-pound package. That's the gas engine, which does heavy and light fuel, and bad Russian vodka when necessary. It also includes the alternator, auto start function. It is clearly the record holder today in the world in a heavy lift. 3 weeks ago, we lifted 73 pounds inside a hangar, since the FAA still doesn't like us doing heavy lifts. So why this? Why the Hummingbird? Well, the market is $90 billion by 2020 in the drone industry, according to the Teal Group. I decided that I wasn't going to be in the toy industry and compete with DJI, which has 63% of the toy market. And those are toys. Anything that uses a battery is a toy. I'm sorry. It's limited to less than an hour flight time and about a 3-pound payload. We're in the big boy area. The military classifies it as units are class 1 through 5. 5 is Global Hawk, 1 are toys. We're number 3 in the middle. That's the sweet spot. That's where we make our dollars, and that's our biggest return on investment. I founded 2 other companies successfully and sold them. This is my 3rd. I'm a serial entrepreneur. It's a veteran-based business, career in the Air Force, and very proud of this. That's it. That's in our production facility. We go to full production in October in about 90 days. Thank you, and I'd love to take your questions.
Can you say something about your navigation system?
I'm sorry?
Can you say something about your navigation system?
Yes, we have a triple redundant navigation system. The system is also designed, we can lose, the final product is an 8-rotor. This is a hex rotor. The final is 8. We can lose up to 3 rotors and still maintain control and go to a safe landing. It's triple redundant. We use the US GPS, the GLONASS system, and the Chinese GPS system, and soon Japan when they come online. Fully autonomous. Sir?
Yeah, what did you say the range is? The range?
Oh, the range. We average 50 to 60 miles an hour with a 6-hour flight time. The range will be between 300 and 400 miles, depending on your payload, altitude, various atmospheric effects.
And it is a gas engine? Is that what you said?
It comes standard with a gas engine, but as most of you sitting here, I notice, are in the military arena, heavy fuel, J4, J8, JP4, diesel, kerosene. That's a separate option. Any other questions? Sir?
Are you just selling hardware, or is there software, like mission planning software, that goes with this?
I look at us, excellent question. I look at us as a Ford Motor Company. This is an F-1, let's just call it an F-250. Ford doesn't care what you put in the back, nor do we. So we're a platform. We give you 8 hard points around the girdle. That's the center point of the aircraft. You can put up to 8 different packages, components, sensors. You can release them autonomously, release them mechanically. Excellent product for the upcoming delivery rush.
And do you have any real-world flight experience? So you gave numbers for flight times and distances. Have you gotten permission from the FAA to actually fly these missions?
Yes, we have the distinction of having one of the largest flight envelopes to practice in, southern Colorado. We operate in an 8,000 contiguous square mile area, and to my knowledge, till someone tells me differently, this aircraft has been approved, and the only one approved to 15,000 feet above sea level. That's our operating envelope. Yes, ma'am.
What do you do for collision avoidance, detect and avoid?
Excellent question. The system automatically comes with ADS-B. If you have Mode C, Mode S requirements, we partner with a company that provides the miniaturization of that specifically for drones. We also incorporate a programmable light system for navigation and avoidance. Countries have different requirements, so we accommodate that. So a full lighting strobing system plus ADS-B out, since no one's inside to take it in, and then Mode C, Mode S. There's a gentleman over here.
Any thoughts on picking landing spots by itself, or does it only land using GPS?
Excellent question. We use a laser altimeter, a twin laser altimeter that does a search for the area below the aircraft. So if there's trees, rocks, or other obstacles in the way, it will do essentially what the moonlanders did going to the moon. They kind of flew around for a while. This will do that autonomously. It looks like my time is up. Thank you very much. The drone's on the floor. Thank you.
Scratch digital and data. And guys, there have been some pretty cool technologies. Can I hear a shout out for the companies that are actually up here presenting? Come on. That's all you've got in Denver? Sorry. Thank you. Come on up.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Mike Corbacero. If you could go to the next slide, please, that would be great. So despite all the fighter jets here from the 50s and 60s, it is not 1960. We do not have an endless supply of data scientists looking at one mission, gathering data and providing answers to you. Instead, today, what do we have? Way too much data and not enough domain experts over here on the left. What we have to do to solve this talent problem is we have to take the knowledge that's in their brains about the data that's being collected and the relationships in that data and make it available to everyone in this room so that we all can become domain knowledge experts. So here's an example, and that's all based around context. An example of context. I get a piece of information that's coming off of an automobile. It says I'm going 175 miles an hour. If I'm on I-25, I got a problem. But if I'm at the Indianapolis 500 and I'm in corner number 3, I may not be going fast enough. Context is the key, and context allows us to then describe concepts, and we talk in conversations around concepts. And what we're doing at Scratch is building applications, knowledge-based applications with cybersecurity and IoT that sits on top of this information. So we're a team that's worked together for 25 years. We brought a number of companies to the marketplace. We've generated over $1.6 billion worth of opportunity and results for our investors. We have strategic relationships in this area, specifically with Palo Alto Networks for cybersecurity and ThingWorx, PTC ThingWorx in the IoT world. So what makes us a little bit different? We leverage modern day technology, graph technology, databases, knowledge, natural language processing, examples, machine learnings and such. But that's all the underlying technology. We don't have to build that. We rely on the existing technology that's available to us. We focus in on the applications that are important, the IoT applications and the cybersecurity applications. And what that looks like is the following. If I'm an engineer in the field and I got a problem with a device or a system, I want to understand what is that device attached to, what systems are affected by it, what inventory is available to me, what decisions are available, what technology, what data is available to me so I can make the most enhanced decision. In cybersecurity, it's the same situation. I've got a threat that's occurred. I want to know where it's coming from. What's the tonnage? What's good? What's bad? What's whitelisted? What's blacklisted? It's all about relationships. Our system guides the user through those relationships so they can make intelligent decisions, and we can solve this talent problem over here on the left. Thank you. Questions?
Where does the domain knowledge come from?
I'm sorry?
Where does the domain knowledge come from?
Domain knowledge, great question. So it comes from comes from our partners specifically, partners like Palo Alto and PTC. In the case of IoT, the customers we work with, the implementation partners or systems integrators, and specific knowledge within our corporation. There's no way that we can have all the domain knowledge. That's impossible. So we provide tool sets to enable that and leverage partners.
So maybe Penny asked the same question I'm asking, which is, how do you actually achieve the context that you're talking about, the interrelationship of things? Is your software just the top end of that, and other systems have to provide that linkage, or do you do that yourself?
Our software provides that capability. We provide the ability to identify those interdependencies and relationships amongst the data. And there are others in the marketplace that have capabilities there that we can leverage too. And there's also industry standard concepts known as ontologies that are available that we can take advantage of. So there's a number of different approaches we take. And then that sits on top of industry standard technologies like graph databases as an example.
And are you applying AI techniques or machine learning, or can you talk about it?
So when you're ingesting the data from all these different data sources, log files, whatever it happens to be, you have to apply the machine learning in order to be able to generate the metadata associated with it. So that's the vertical piece of it. Then once you identify the metadata on the vertical data sets that you're looking for, you have to identify the relationships between the data. And that's where the machine learning and artificial intelligence comes into play to understand what are those possible different relationships. So we've modeled the data on the vertical sense. We're now delivering the horizontal, which are the IoT and the cybersecurity solutions, into the market.
If I'm a customer who I give you my data to provide context around, how do you protect my data from entering your broader product?
From entering into our product, we're not a data company, so I have no interest in your data. That's a dead start in this marketplace. So our contracts would reflect that. I don't collect your data. I don't analyze your data. In fact, if you need to, we can run on-prem at your location, so your data doesn't even have to leave your firewalls. That's a good question. We're not in the data business.
But isn't context just data?
What's that?
Isn't context just data?
Well, it's all data. It's all data, metadata, relationships, and data. So yes, it is. So context is the relationships and the interdependencies around that data. But the value from our point of view are the applications, the knowledge-based applications that sit on top of that are specific to, in our case right now, cybersecurity and IoT. Other questions? All right. Thank you very much for your time.
So just to break it up for a second, I know Robin's going to give me dirty looks and probably play the shark music, but I don't think I mentioned, like, I think I have the coolest job in the entire agency outside of being an astronaut, and I'm not sure any job can trump that, right? So I just love what I do, and it's because of people like this that are inventing amazing technologies. So, Spectrobiotics? No. Solstar Space. Sorry.
Thank you, Kira.
You're welcome.
And thanks to NASA iTech for this fantastic opportunity to present. So perhaps you've heard about a company who tested the very first commercial Wi-Fi in space. So that company's Solstar Space. And I'm Brian Barnett, I'm founding CEO. In fact, we're 3 for 3. 3 space flights, 3 successes. Within the last 75 days, we've successfully tested our Wi-Fi on board Blue Origin's New Shepard crew capsule. We have practical applications for our Wi-Fi in space. We are the Internet of Things in space. Solstar is an internet service provider for suborbital flights in certain low Earth orbiting LEO spacecraft and the International Space Station. Some of you in the audience perhaps have had experiments that have flown on the space station. Our small sat operators and ISS principal investigators are starved for telecom connectivity to their payloads and assets in space. Solstar can address this with near continuous internet protocol, IP-based two-way messaging and data via any internet-connected device. We provide hardware data connectivity to payloads within a space vehicle via standard Ethernet and Wi-Fi interfaces. NASA has supported our research and our activities so far. They paid for our space flights. Thank you. They've also helped support our research to develop this capability on the International Space Station, which we hope to test within 2 years. And we do this by leveraging existing commercial satellite constellations. All of our satellites are in space today. We don't need to launch any new satellites. How does our technology work? Well, we mount our space communicators into spacecraft and small sats. Again, we establish connections through commercial satellites in LEO and GEO. We are truly revolutionizing the way payloaders interact with their payloads in space from Earth. And we have a demand for our products and services. The best example was when I was standing in the desert last month at Blue Origin Test Facility in West Texas. The New Shepard rocket had just landed. I was standing in front of the rocket with other scientists from around the world. Those scientists were waiting to see if their experiments had succeeded in space as planned. But since we had a data connection on board, we already knew what our results were. And we could have solved their problem as well. So we are 3 for 3. 3 space flights, 3 successes, no failures. Go Solstar.
You manufacture your own hardware. Could you tell us a little bit about how it's radiation protected for spaceflight?
Sorry, I couldn't understand you.
The hardware that you manufacture, it's hardened for radiation exposure? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
We use commercial off-the-shelf as much as possible. You know, a lot of these space missions aren't that long anymore.
Could you tell us a little bit about the range from the New Shepard out to payloads if they eject off the spacecraft? What kind of range would you have?
It's the range of our Wi-Fi
Right.
on board, typical to any regular Wi-Fi. It's definitely large enough for inside that spacecraft. And we could put repeaters other places if we needed to, like on the space station, for instance.
Do you have a ground-based application as well, or a market on Earth, or is it just space?
Yeah, the ground-based is basically connecting all these payloaders on Earth to their space assets via any laptop or smartphone device. Our market are things and people in space.
What's your gap time in terms of downlink? And what sort of data limits in terms of size?
What is our data link? The latency, I think you said?
The latency and then the size. I mean, for instance, we take down 80 terabytes of data a day. What sort of limits do you have in terms of ingesting that size of data?
We have typical latencies in terms of satellite communications. And in terms of data rates, we're not publishing our data rates yet, but that will be driven by our customers. There's a lot of factors involved, like what orbit are you in, what your velocity is, compared to where our satellites are our satellites in LEO or GEO. That's what we do. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, guys, we've got 4 more companies. Robotics.
Thank you, and welcome you all for coming here tonight. So in the spring of 2003, I was sent to the desert with a team of imagery analysts, and our job was to take about a dozen satellite images and look for anomalies. Fast forward 15 years, and we still do it the same way. Only because of the great folks that work on drones, instead of having to analyze a few dozen satellite images, we now have to analyze tens of thousands of images. I'm Tim Haney. I'm the CEO and founder of Robotics. And we work out of Colorado Springs, and I have 2 members of my team. One is coming off projects working with the National Security Agency doing data science applications, and the other is coming from the European Space Agency doing data mining for deep space telescope data. So our technology came out of the drone space because drones are really good at collecting a lot of data, but we soon found ourselves just being crushed under the computational requirements of having to analyze tens of thousands of images that come to us, until we found machine learning. So with machine learning, of course, we can do it a whole lot faster. We can do it a whole lot more accurately. And so we've cobbled together a series of tools in data science and artificial intelligence. And we've built a system that first aligns, then combines, and then defines materials and items of interest for our customers. So we work with multi and hyperspectral data, and it doesn't matter if it comes from satellite data or drone data. But we take that data and then we look in RGB, but we're really more interested in the infrared spectrum. Because infrared does an amazing job of a more accurate description of what's going on within the environment. But the problem is, when you start adding all of this IR data into your analysis, that it requires complete alignment between all of the pixels before you can even get to the machine learning. Our system does this. It connects the dots. It bridges the gap between all of this raw, unprocessed, misaligned data into complete orthomosaic image sets, and then onto advanced intelligence that can be garnered when you can apply some machine learning applications. Now, the beauty part of working with infrared data over and above RGB is computer vision is getting really good at defining shapes. It can distinguish between a clock and a chair, but it doesn't do a very good job of describing the environment, where IR data is extremely descriptive, and there's a lot of information to be learned out there. Now, NASA has put hyper and multispectral sensors on just about everything with an engine. And there's a lot of data out there, petabytes of data that need to be analyzed. But again, we still do it the same way. So our system is faster, it's more accurate, and all of the analysts that were doing data analysis before or imagery analysis are now building data models to make our system better, smarter, and grow it at a faster rate. Thank you. I'll now take questions.
So you talk about machine learning helping not rack and stack, but basically sifting through all the images or data that's the satellite's collecting, including IR information. And what is it? Is it looking for like just change detection, or what's going on there with your machine?
Great question. Great question. So what is machine learning looking for in between all of these data sets? Probably the best way to answer that is it's a big unknown in data science when it comes to machine learning. And it gets a little bit weirder when we start talking about convolutional neural net processing. So what the machines are doing, what these algorithms are doing in their classification processes, is they're looking at relationships, be it grayscale differentiations between pixels, or it's looking at connections between different data bands. It's trying to find its own way to distinguish a certain feature and then give that feature a name, and then we can ground truth that and call it what it is. Does that answer your question? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had a question about the registration you were talking about. Was this because the multispectral data was from different sources? Is that why you were performing that, or are you suggesting that the instruments themselves are not aligning their data?
Right, so there are lots of ways to collect spectral data. One of the ways is to have a number of different cameras with filters in front of the lenses that filter out all the light what you're looking for. More often than not, those cameras are just slightly misaligned. And so it needs to run through a process to align all those pixels together. There are other global shutters out there that can collect a whole different bands using silicone wafers that are a little more precise on the way it's imaged. So it's all collected at the same time, and there is no registration errors between those images.
So you're using feature recognition to align them?
That's one of the algorithms within machine learning that we're using to identify different features.
And could you describe what you think the NASA application might be?
Right, so NASA uses spectral data on everything from measuring sun's irradiance to bathymetry studies over coral regions looking for algae plumes. So the great thing about the drone, especially using that as a test platform, is it's really easy to do ground truthing. So you can develop your algorithm in-house, you can develop your processes to identify a certain feature, and then directly apply that at the satellite level, where you're looking at much broader areas and you've got access to lots of different areas around the world. So there's a relationship between the data that's collected and processed with drone and then using that as the way to teach the satellite how to do it.
So one of the things that's true in AI and machine learning is that you sometimes need hundreds of thousands or millions or tens of millions of examples to get accurate identification. How are you guys getting, and without going into any kind of secret sauce, how are you guys getting sort of enough examples of what you're searching for to get it to be accurately able to identify whatever it is?
Right, you can never have too much, is the thing. So what we're learning that's unique about the spectral imagery is that actually each band is its own image, right? So if you have a hyperspectral image with 220 bands over the same area, then you've clicked off 220 images that you can now analyze. Click it again, there's another 220. So you can rapidly build up the amount of imagery you're using in your algorithm to develop it. But you can never have too much. And another from a commercial way of doing it is that our alignment software and service entices others out there who are collecting data to give it to us and then pay us to process it for them.
So your business plan is a service, or are you selling the application, or?
I believe I'm out of time. Great question, though.
Stratum Incorporated.
Good evening. A FARP is a forward ammunition resupply point. They're used in the military, and they have been for years. They've been a standard part of military doctrine. Recently, the battlefield has become more complex, and our enemy has become more sophisticated. The Army has lost aircraft, forfeited position, and most importantly, lost soldiers' lives using FARPs recently. Because of this, the FARP is no longer used in military expeditions. I'm Ryan Delghese, and I work at Stratum. We are working to develop an autonomous resupply and refueling system that will eliminate the soldier from FARP-like operations. It's called the AR3P, the Autonomous Remote Robotic Refueling Point. Our contribution to the technology has to do with the robotic arm. We're providing the sensor, interfaces, and software algorithms to localize the fuel port. Our vision processing algorithms use geometry that already exists on the aircraft or that is custom that allow us to engage and resupply those vehicles. We've developed 2 prototypes of this. The first was for the Air Force Research Laboratory and focused on F-35 as the target. We made no modifications to the fuel port for this program. Last year, we updated our prototype to engage an Apache aircraft. We were able to provide a custom interface that would allow for single-point refueling and no need to remove the nozzle. Up till now, we've received $500,000 in funding to complete these 2 demos. Stratum has secured an additional $500,000 from TARDEC, the Tank and Automotive Research Development and Engineering Center, to expand this capability to ground vehicles as part of the Autonomous Ground Resupply Program, which is supplying autonomous convoy vehicles to the Army. We're also in the process of winning $1 million with Amerdeck to continue the AR-3P concept. Now, NASA Ames has been working on the Airport of the Future. The Airport of the Future will provide technology and capabilities that will increase safety and efficiency at our airports. NASA knows that we cannot just release and drop DIA 2.0 one day and everything just works. It'll be a scaled release program that will require specific small technologies that will fit into larger logistic operation software. Stratum believes our robotic refueling technology would be a perfect fit for that application. Thank you.
So how does your system handle that interface getting dirty or dusty and other like nighttime lighting conditions?
So that is the objective of the next $1 million we're working on with Amerdeck. The proof of concepts we've done so far have been inside. The Amerdeck demo is going to be on a live Apache with roto wings spinning. Our main we're pursuing right now is to use shortwave infrared cameras instead of visible light to handle dust and debris and to provide for night operations. For that program, we're allowed to create our own fiducial fueling port, and so we're going to provide or incorporate shortwave infrared markers on there to help us see those.
So how does the time to do the refueling with the autonomous system compare with doing it with a person doing it? Does it save much time, and is it safer?
Right now, it's a similar tempo, and it's much safer. So carrying fuel lines and fuel hoses is very labor intensive. They're heavy, and it's a slow process for a man or two or a soldier or two to carry them out to the vehicle and refuel them. That's what makes it so dangerous, having unarmed soldiers exposing themselves near the aircraft. The tempo for right now, the tempo is similar to a human engaging the fuel port. So the Army is satisfied as long as we can maintain the same mission tempo at the FARPs. A typical FARP stop is between 30 and 40 minutes to refuel and rearm the aircraft.
For the aircraft operations usage that you speculated on, are you talking about having stable units that would then have mobile arms that would reach up to the aircraft to do the refueling, or are you talking about mobile units that would move from aircraft to aircraft?
Both of those concepts are part of the AR-3P larger operational view, depending on how long they intend the FARP to be in existence. FARPs can be in existence from a few hours to a few days, depending on the lifetime. They'll either be dropping off larger container systems, or we have the ability to put our system on an unmanned ground vehicle that can drive up and detect the aircraft. And we also make those vehicles. Thank you.
Valiant AI.
Hey, good evening. Valiant AI is merging artificial intelligence, natural language processing, and computer-generated characters to build the world's first digital AI employees. The physical implementation of our product is a 3-foot wide by 6-foot tall digital display with a life-size computer-generated person, as you can see there. My name is Rob Carpenter, and I am the founder and CEO of Valiant Ai. We're focused here in Denver. We're a team of 8 very passionate technologists. 6 of us have been CEOs or CTOs of other companies. We've been in quasi-stealth development for the last 20 months. We've had over $3 million in capital committed to date, and we're currently working through our first live demos. The market that we've targeted for our product is high-volume fast food restaurants. Now, we are on track to be delivering the digital employee next year, but what we've learned along the way is that the conversational AI has to be rock solid. The first product that we're bringing to market is conversational AI for drive-through at fast food restaurants. So you would drive up to it, it would automatically greet you. You'd say, "I want a cheeseburger." We take the audio, we convert it to text, we then pull out meaning, we push the cheeseburger to the point of sale system, we then kick out a response, which might be, "Do you want fries and a drink with that?" We take the output, convert it to audio, and play it back to the customer, giving the experience of taking your order from a digital AI employee. We believe that the market opportunity for this is in excess of $23 billion per year, and as far as we know, we would be the first to market with this product. What we think would be interesting to NASA is that imagine that you're Sunita Williams or Scott Kelly and you're in the International Space Station. You're taking the CO2 scrubber apart again, and you want to know what the time is in Houston. Or you're feeling a little lightheaded. You want to know what the oxygen or CO2 levels are. You could just talk to the onboard computer. This specifically relates back to the NASA technology roadmap from 2015 that was all about how to help the integration between humans and computers. What's unique about our platform is that because by the end of the year it'll be all our own IP, it can be completely disconnected from the internet, allowing it to be heavily customized and directly integrated with the hardware it's being used with. So, if you think that there's a huge market opportunity here, this product could spark innovation at NASA, we'd love your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Does your system have to have the digital display, or can it work independent of that?
Completely independent of that, and that's what the drive-through will be.
How does this differ from more robotic CSRs? Like if you call into United, for instance, you get a almost human response from their system.
Yeah, great question. So there's a number of things. First is the ability to take compound requests. So you could say multiple things simultaneously and add qualifiers to those. Almost all of the systems we're aware of that are out there right now are still prompt-based systems. You know, say yes for this, or 1 for this, or 2 for that. Ours, you can have a fluid conversation with the AI. We're very proud of the intellectual property we've developed.
So how does it compare with Alexa or Siri or any of the other things that talk to us?
Well, I mean, of course it's better. We actually think it's the next generation of the system. And the reason that we're able to do that is because we're going a mile deep on fast food, and we're able to build our entire system around that. Google and Alexa and Siri are trying to be everything to everyone, so you don't get very deep in terms of their capability. This is what allows us to do the compound requests, the follow-ons, and we also have session memory, so you can essentially carry on a short conversation with it.
So was that $23 billion a year number just fast food, or was that broader than that industry?
Just fast food. We think the total addressable market for the retail industry is $850 billion a year. Whether it's us, Google, or another startup, we are seeing companies that are moving towards automating customer service, and it's going to be big.
Just real quick, so, I mean, I understand where you're going with this, but At the same time, I look at the competition. I'm not talking about Siri or Google, but I'm talking about smartphones and applications, right?
Yeah.
Where people right now can just order what they want. They know exactly what they want. They get it as through their Starbucks app or whatever, and they just walk in and get it. I mean, how will that sort of be able to compete with something like that?
By 2020, Gartner estimates mobile order ahead will account for 10% of all industry orders. It means 90% are still going to happen in store.
Curious as to what your accuracy is on taking orders.
Right now, we're at about 70%. We make up the gap with human auditors, so they're actually watching the flow of the order, and when they make corrections, it reinforces back to our deep neural net. We believe by November, we can be in the 90 to 95% range.
And you said that you got your accuracy or your thing by focusing on fast food. Say you did a similar industry, how long would it take you to develop to modify the system for that?
Yeah, great question. The platform was designed to be industry agnostic. We'd like to get to a point where it takes about 60 to 90 days to expand to another industry. Because we're raising institutional capital, we're trying to stay really focused on this industry for right now, but in the next 2 to 3 years, we're getting interest from hospitality, healthcare, and retail for the product.
So I've ordered a cup of coffee from McDonald's every morning for 10 years, and I've got data on how bad they are. I'd be happy to share that with you.
Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
So last but not least, Vida Inclinata Technologies. Come on up.
Meet Dawn. Dawn is a member of the Multnomah County Search and Rescue Team in Portland, Oregon. 10 years ago, Dawn went down with cardiac arrest in the Columbia River Gorge. A rescue helicopter, and they dispatched, they started to lower our basket to the team below. After multiple attempts of trying to get the basket through the canopy of trees above due to the high winds that night, the basket just couldn't make it because it was swinging too violently. 10 minutes later, the pilot called off the mission, and Dawn died minutes later. This is what happened to me. It was my team, and that was my mission. Hello, my name is Caleb Carr, and I'm the founder of Vida Inclinata Technologies, a company with decades of experience in aerospace engineering, search and rescue operations, and defense, putting together a technology that completely eliminates a systemic problem that affects 24 people on a daily basis. To do this, Vida has developed a technology called the Load Stability System. It brings together drone technology and couples that with stability control to completely eliminate the swing. It does this through a series of electric duct fans which provide counterthrust in the direction of the swing to completely decouple it from the helicopter. A series of sensors will sense where the swinging is going and provide thrust in that direction, allowing us to completely eliminate a swing for a 200-pound person all the way up to a large load used for sling load operations. However, it's not just sling load and helicopter hoisting missions that are a problem. Construction, ski lifts, and space all have key applications with this kind of technology, amounting to an $11.4 billion market. Soon, Vida will be able to apply this technology using its disruptive control methods to be able to counteract any potential swinging during NASA operations to claim objects, say, in the ocean. But more importantly, when trying to direct objects towards Mars or things on a trajectory to other space venues, we can position exactly where we want things to go based on the trajectory that that object is taking. You have the power today to ensure that 25 degrees is never the difference between life or death when it comes to people like Dawn, when it comes to people like me, but most importantly, when it comes to you or one of your loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Is your innovation in the thrusters that you're using, the fans, or is it in the control software trying to solve this two-body problem?
So the innovative sauce is not only the control algorithms that are internal within the load stability system, it's also the idea of being able to put essentially a drone 5 feet above the load, as you see in this picture, and decoupling that pivot point from the helicopter. It doesn't matter what the helicopter does. All it matters is it will sense where the load is going and counteract it in that respect. So we change a 200-foot pendulum problem to a 5-foot pendulum problem, and that's the innovative element of it.
So you're using some kind of sensor technology on the device itself. Could you explain what it is?
Correct. So we're actually using the same type of sensor technology that comes off the Predator drone that has been successful for the last couple of years.
Do you sense the cable angle coming off of the pivot point, either at the helicopter or at the drone?
So we use a series of GPS and also IMUs to be able to sense where both the own ship is, but also where the ground is. However, that naturally changes when it comes to helicopter operations, wind dynamics, etc. This system will specifically focus on where the load is and try and counteract that swing by just moving that pivot point. And so we are allowed to, we enable that ability to decouple it from that own ship and specifically focus on that load and stabilization in regards to a vertical axis.
You've said a couple of times where the load is. Could you explain what you mean by that? And GPS will not work in some high-angle situations, right? You're a search and rescue expert, so when you get into deep canyons or very steep terrain, then it may not operate. So what do you mean by where the load is? Do you mean in space, or how it's moving?
Correct. So our main goal is to be able to allow the pilot to know that that load is completely vertical in regards to, and then at that point the pilot can maneuver to be able to position, say if you were on a cliff, swing a rescue swimmer directly into that cliff, but we know for a fact that that person is going to be completely straight, not rotating, which is a huge element to it, but also not swinging longitudinally.
So you have angle sensors and rotational sensors, okay.
Awesome, thank you. The prototype is actually sitting in the back and happy to visit.
So thank you. Let's give a round of applause to all the entrepreneurs that presented tonight. Again, it's a little bit tough to stand up here and face these judges. Maybe we should turn your chairs backwards or something. I'm just kidding. So this concludes the presentation portion. The judges are going to go back to a room. They're going to tally the scores, and they'll be back in 15 minutes with the top winner for tonight's presentations. So right now, I'd like to actually introduce Jaylen Dell. He's going to come up here and speak. I don't know where he's at. Hey, he's still here. Jay's going to talk, kind of give an overview on Colorado and the importance of space technology to this state, which I do have to say that they sort of set a high bar for any other state that we're visiting. We're planning on going to 10 cities throughout the U.S., and I'm not sure other cities are going to be able to compete. I guess we'll have to see, but you guys have really joined forces, helped us bring all of you here, reach out to the entrepreneurs, and so thank you for that, Jay, and I'll hand over the mic and be back in 15 minutes.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure to be here this evening and really welcome NASA iTech here to Colorado. And no doubt, Colorado really being the first state to host this event. I guess NASA did have an iTech event at the Space Symposium, but that's also here in Colorado, but the first event with a city public audience invited. And we're proud and honored to host the first one in a series. And there isn't a better state than Colorado with the innovative technology, the entrepreneurial spirit, the dynamic growth that we have in our economy in Colorado spread through many advanced industry sectors as well as aerospace. And a big thank you to Wings Over the Rockies for hosting this event here tonight, a great location.
Obviously, here we are with aerospace spread all around us, and magnificent for this kind of layout. And for NASA to invite the judges, for all the participants tonight, thank you for coming and being a part of this event. And the Office of Economic Development and International Trade, the State Office of Economic, part of the Governor's Office, is happy to be a sponsor for this event tonight too. Now what I really want to talk about is a little bit about Colorado's economy, where we're going, and some aerospace in Colorado, and highlight those technologies that are helping propel our economy in Colorado. If I could go to this slide. In Colorado, we've had an enormous population growth over the last few years. And if you look at that yellow dotted line at the top compared to the blue line, which is the national average, we have more than doubled and outpaced the national average in population growth in Colorado. Now, I think for those of us that live here in Colorado, especially in the greater Denver area, we're feeling it. We're feeling the congestion, we're feeling the housing prices, we're feeling affordability, we're feeling the lack of space, living space, and that sort of thing. So economy yet has to catch up. But it's been tremendous growth, and we thought that we would see a slowdown in our growth, our population growth this year, but we haven't. We're continuing on a record pace here in Colorado. If I could go to the next slide. If you look at that population, the dynamics are shifting. Our cultural makeup is shifting. If you look at that red block of population and ages, that's roughly the ages 18 up to about 36. That's now the largest segment of our population in Colorado. Net migration, young people coming to the state of Colorado, more kids growing up here in Colorado and staying in Colorado and finding jobs here in Colorado, enjoying the outdoorsy environment and so forth. This is a millennial generation that's really propelling the innovative technology, the new ideas, the workforce of today in Colorado, and will be the workforce of the future for some time. This generation today, the millennial generation in Colorado, and we have one of the youngest populations in the country due to this generally a net migration into the state of young people finding jobs, and more of our younger generation staying in Colorado to find jobs. Next. If you look at our unemployment rate, we're beating the national average. In fact, if you look at that dip in 2017, down near 3%. When you're under 4% unemployment rate, it's a wow economy. So at 3% in Colorado, we're doing well. Now that has ticked up a little bit this year, but we're still under 4% for unemployment. And we haven't been there in a couple decades. In parts of our state, and unemployment rates by major statistical area have never had such unemployment rates as low as they are in Colorado today. So lots of people coming to Colorado. Our population is growing. It's a younger population, and they're finding jobs here in Colorado and propelling our economy. Next. And if you look at new jobs and net migration, the red line is the migration. The blue solid columns are new jobs. And we're in this transition time after 2015. But we don't have enough qualified and skilled people in Colorado to even fill all those new jobs. And so I'm around the state talking to a lot of business, a lot of economic developers. And our greatest issue when I talk to businesses, workforce, workforce, workforce. We can't find enough qualified, skilled people for the jobs that are available in Colorado. So, not a bad problem to have if you've got economic growth and you don't have enough of the right people to fill those jobs. but it's holding us back as an economy to grow the skill sets we need for those jobs. Now, part of that, I can say that we need to do a better job in Colorado training and educating our workforce for the future. And so for all of us, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever, all of us have a responsibility to take an interest in education and training in Colorado and make sure our tax dollars are put forth to the right education system and make it better in our state. And we have lots of data that shows that we need better trained people to fill all those jobs that we do have available in this great state. Okay, next. Okay, aerospace in Colorado. Wow. It's one of our top 5 leading industries in the state. And in my job, I focus in economic development on aerospace and defense industry. I also have an additional role for enhanced positive relationships for the governor in defense. But promoting aerospace in Colorado, when you look at this growth that we've had in 2017, 4.7%, you look at that number of 180 plus aerospace companies, but what's a number when you really start pulling the threads on this is all those sub-tier suppliers that may not be registered at aerospace companies or may not be named as aerospace companies. In fact, a lot of aerospace is software and professional technical services. And when you start looking at it, 500 plus suppliers that do space-related services and support in Colorado supporting this aerospace industry. And that's a huge number, a huge impact. And if you look at all those companies, 84% are small business. And an interesting point about all the small businesses that make up this tremendous ecosystem is that over half, roughly 55%, are 10 employees or less. And that really speaks to a very innovative, entrepreneurial, great business climate where businesses can embrace new technology, a business climate which includes skills and talent, investment, infrastructure to support them and start new businesses in Colorado. And of those 10 employees, I've been to a lot of them, across the state, and you walk in and you look at these clean rooms and marvelous technology, precision instruments, you go, wow, there must be 30, 40 people here at least to do all this. Now we've got 8 today, maybe 9 when we hire another one next week. So that is the type of innovative technology going on in Colorado. And one thing I've learned in this job in economic development is how hard our small businesses work in Colorado and how passionate small businesses are about their jobs and their technology and what they're doing to help further our economy. And so in economic development, I say I have one of the best jobs in Colorado because I get to work with all these small businesses and help them on a path, on a trajectory to grow, develop, and where the state can help through grant programs, et cetera. If I could go back one more slide back, I want to highlight first in the nation in per capita employment in aerospace. We're number 1 as a percentage of employment in aerospace. Now there's a big state on the West Coast, and I'll give you the numbers. Roughly employs 63,000 direct aerospace employees. If you look at Colorado and count apples to apples, our direct employees are roughly 28,000 that are registered in an aerospace position. However, when we compare to some other states, the Alabama, Texas, Florida, we're above them in numbers, and only California has more. But when you look at California, 7 times the population of Colorado, by far per capita, number 1. So I love to put that on my slide, number 1 in the nation in per capita employment. You look at the revenue growth, the economic impact, $15 billion plus in just in aerospace alone economic impact. And what I see in this industry sector in aerospace is the technology and innovation just cross-pollinates across our whole economy. And it doesn't matter what you look at, what sector, how you want to silo economic sectors. Aerospace is such a driver of technology, such a catalyst to propel business forward. You look at it, and there's so much going on across our state. It's tremendous. A quote I'll put up here in yellow from J.J. Mint, who's the CEO, actually president, Metro Denver Economic Development Corporation. Aerospace is a shining star, startups, small business, primes. There's no better place than Colorado for aerospace innovation and growth. And I think as I look at businesses that come to Colorado, stay and grow and are successful, and businesses that have been here, there is no better place. And then when I'm out external to the state, working with different economic development organizations, say, I wish we had what you had in Colorado. So it's a great state to be in for aerospace or advanced industry in general. Next. This is a Metro Denver Economic Development Corporation slide. I'll give them credit, but it looks at industry sectors in our economy. The size of the bubble is the size of the employees. For instance, that big blue bubble on the horizontal line, healthcare and wellness. We do a lot of healthcare and wellness in our state, big industry sector. Obviously, a lot of employees and a lot of administrative accounting type jobs and so forth along that line. You see IT and software in the purple bubbles, another big sector. But if you look at aerospace in the far right upper corner there, that is space and that is growth, far outpacing other industry sectors. And then up the vertical is business concentration, and that's the city, county of Denver and the 8 surrounding counties. There's such a high concentration here with a business-to-business environment and aerospace. That's why it's up at the far right. And if you come down to the bottom and you look at aviation, again, the far right on the horizontal line, that is growth in aviation. And a lot of technology spreading across aerospace in general, space and aviation in Colorado. So we've got some dynamic growth in this state when you say aerospace, aviation, and space going on in Colorado. Next, I want to highlight some of the technologies that are relevant across all advanced industries, but in particular, what aerospace does as far as a catalyst. You look at the different composite materials, advanced manufacturing, and just a note on 3D printing, if you will. 4 years ago, I'd walk into businesses, even 3 years ago, and there'd just be experimenting with a 3D printer with polymers. What can this thing really do? What can we make with this machine? Just experimentation and so forth. Today, you walk into those businesses and they're working with different alloys and metals. Far beyond experimentation, they're in production of parts, actually selling and marketing parts now in a short span of 3 years. To see how fast this technology has advanced is extremely remarkable. A lot of data analytics and software development in aerospace. And as I commented earlier, when you start really looking at what a lot of business does in Colorado, it's all about software, especially in aerospace. It's not just producing hardware, parts, and pieces. It's all about the sensor integration of those marvelous sensors that go onto satellite systems. It's all about the processing of this data, turning it into real information, the data analytics piece of it. It's because things are going in space and they've got to work the first time. It's all about simulation, validation of your hardware or your equipment to get it into space to make sure it works. Spaceport Colorado. Earlier today, I attended an event hosted by Adams County. As of last Friday, late, the FAA approved the Front Range Airport, which is roughly 7 miles to the south and east of DIA, as Colorado Air and Spaceport. And that is, we're one of, I think, state number 7. We're the 11th spaceport to have a FAA site operator's license. So is that a big deal? What's a big deal about it is that it is to the rest of the world, the rest of the nation, that Colorado is wide open to the research, the development, technology that'll lead someday to suborbital space. So the advanced propulsion systems, the hypervelocity propulsion systems, hypervelocity flight control systems, those things needed to someday power and control a vehicle that'll horizontal launch from Denver, Colorado, get to Tokyo in 2 hours and land horizontally. Now, how far away is that technology? We're many, many years. But today, we're open and stating to the world, stating to the nation that Colorado has a spaceport, and here in Spaceport, we're open to business, we're open to the research and development that leads to someday enabling this commercial travel around the world suborbital. And we want to be there. If we're a spacefaring state, which we are, it's great that we have finally made it over the hurdle. In fact, it was a tall wall, not a hurdle, to get through with the FAA to have a site operator's license. And tremendous event today out at Adams County with that announcement. If you look at the focus areas for this event, all those 5 focus areas that talked about, I look at them and I'm going, wow, that's what's unique about our technology and economy in Colorado. You look at them and how perfectly we align with NASA iTech and where they want to go to highlight and look for capability in those technology areas. And I look through them all, and I see this every day when I'm out at working with businesses and everything going on through here. Now, X factor, the bottom one, could be anything in the future we really haven't thought about. But we've got a lot of entrepreneurs and innovators in this state, and there's a lot of X factor business going on. And what a marvelous location. It couldn't be a better location to hold this first event than here in Colorado. Next slide. Okay, it was my pleasure to speak, Kira, to be a part of this event, and I'm happy and so excited, and I can say on behalf of the governor, thank NASA iTech, and I see Jim Rudders, you made it back. Thanks a lot, sir. We're proud to host this event with the Space Mission Director, Kira. We're proud that you came to Colorado first above any other location to hold this event, and it was a pleasure to be a part of it. So thank you very much.
So before we announce the winner, I want to explain sort of what they win by being here tonight. The top winner from tonight automatically earns a spot as one of the top 25. When we receive all our proposals in, the only ones the chief technologists evaluate are the top scoring 25 proposals. If we receive 100 proposals, they only actually evaluate the top 25 scoring. So whoever wins tonight actually gets to sort of skip that part of the process, automatically make it in as one of the top 25, knowing that our chief technologists will get an opportunity to evaluate their technology further. So with that, thank you all for all of your hard work. And Jim, was it a little bit difficult?
Oh, it was terrible. It was tough. I would say everyone, in the room of judges, there's 12 judges, 15, and everybody got a vote. So it was very widespread and diverse, and we looked really hard at the criteria, especially things like what's the NASA application, what is it disruptive to a commercial market, and so on. And so it went back and forth actually for a while, but ultimately.
They wanted extra time, and I said no, if you can imagine.
Yeah, there was a vote for extra time, and that was unanimous among the judges, but somehow that didn't carry the day. I don't know what it was. So anyways, the selection is Artemis Robotics. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And so with that, congratulations, Artemis Robotics.
Thank you very much.
I hope the other 15 will certainly apply for this forum. The deadline is August 31st. However, we will be in Houston searching for technologies with similar challenges and solutions. Next week, same time, same live stream channel. So hope you guys can follow us there. And congratulations, and this sort of concludes the part of our event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good job.